given likely upcoming reductions in general state aid and federal sequestration, if and when it comes time to cut the district's budget, what would you reduce?
You know what? This is not hard for me because we have done this, we have been in that situation several times before. And we always try to keep cuts away from the classroom. But when 85% of your budget is staff, it's very hard to keep it away. And most cuts do affect the students and staff. We would continue to try to do that. Last time we did cuts, we kind of did cuts where everything was cut a little bit. So we didn't take those opportunities away from students. We kept the programs, we kept the academies. We just reduced everything a little bit. And I think we would try to do that again. Last time we took it out we had meetings to get input from the public and see what was important to them. And I think that's the way to do it. We don't want to lose what we do have.
Thank you. Ms. Campos-Maria.
What I would do is we'd have to sit down as a board and we look line by line, what are the services that we're offering, where can we maximize our resources. From the top of my head, it would be maybe larger classroom sizes if that had to be the case. Transportation is a huge part of our budget, so we've got to look at that, see if there's any way we can save on that. Maybe there's students that can also provide input, there's teachers that can provide input, there's community members who provide input. So as long as we have some clarity, I think the choice that we make it together.
Thank you. Mr. McNamara.
So every dollar that is spent needs to have a measurable return on investment. Whether it's a capital expense, if we're spending $100,000 on something, it needs to save us $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 in operating costs. It needs to be measurable and it needs to have a short-term return on investment. When it comes to operating costs or expenditures for the classroom, it needs to have a measurable result. We need to be able to measure, is this going to improve the quality of education? Again, our main goal is to educate. Our main goal and objective is to improve the knowledge of these students. And we need to be able to measure what we're spending. So every dollar that is spent needs to be able to have a return on investment by saving us money elsewhere, and there's plenty of things that can do that, or it needs to have a measurable return in the classroom. And if it's money that's being spent that's not going to bring a positive return, it needs to not be spent.
Thank you. Mr. Gain.
It's hard to when you start cutting spending and trying not to get into the classroom. One of the biggest things I think we could do is look into, in terms of books, is step into the 21st century. And instead of buying a book for every single student, we buy just a classroom set and look into online options so kids can access it at home at the library. I'm sure students would love not having to carry around 5 books anymore, but I think it's the biggest thing. Obviously, I think class sizes are already kind of getting to a point where I don't know if teachers would start to like it if they had 40 kids in their classroom. And the other thing I would like to say is maybe we look at some of the administrative roles we have and see if any options are that we can maybe combine positions. It's nice to have everybody have their own job, but in these economic times, sometimes we do have to combine positions.
Thank you. Mr. Percy.
I think the way the district did it last time was a good first step. They had a budget task force and it included everybody. Parents, teachers, community leaders, everybody was involved in this budget task force and they came up with recommendations. Everything in the budget has to be looked at. Nothing can be off the table. The only problem with education spending, a lot of stuff is mandated by either Springfield or Washington. So you have to work with legislators at various levels of government, see if you could somehow get waivers for various things. But nothing is off the table. Everything has to be looked at and see what can be cut without delving into the classroom as much as possible.
Ms. Nolan.
I agree that we need to be looking first outside of the classroom. I think the classroom needs to be the last place where we're cutting. I do think we should be looking at administrative costs. I think some are small, some are large, but I do not think that the board should be spending money going to conferences when we are looking at cutting anything or anyone. So I immediately feel that we shouldn't be doing such a thing. And I also think we should be looking at an administrative hiring freeze. At no time should we be hiring more staff at over $100,000 a year when we are cutting classroom teachers.